right. Happy Monday. This is Erica Sakosha with Practical Bizz Podcast. We are so excited to have a guest today. We are joined by David Summerfleck. David is a digital marketing specialist with over 20 years experience working for marketing agencies as a web designer, developer, and project manager. David has written for AOL Time Warner. He has spoken at Microsoft and advised hundreds of businesses, and also is the author of The Road to Digital Marketing Profits. So welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
So we're really excited to have you because I think marketing is probably one of the things that's on the forefront of many small business owners' minds as something that they know they need to get done. Sometimes they may not be as well versed as they should be in that area. So I thought maybe today we could definitely talk about the importance of digital marketing for a small business, and then dig a little deeper into some of your expertise on the best way to get started.
Absolutely. I would love to discuss it with you, and I'm going to trust you to guide the conversation because
Okay,
it's definitely something I could discuss.
fantastic. So let's start with, well, why is digital marketing so important for small businesses?
Well, to put it very bluntly, um, it's 2023. It's going to be 2024 soon, or 2022, excuse me. I mean, I'm already thinking ahead.
Yeah,
But I mean, all successful, profitable businesses today are online. If you look for a business, what do you do? Do you take out a big giant yellow pages phone directory?
absolutely not.
No, you look to Google. So if you're not on the first page of Google search results, nobody's going to find your business.
Yeah,
Nobody looks at the second page, and you certainly don't look at the third page. Studies have borne this out conclusively year after year after year. And every year, more and more businesses invest in online marketing, digital marketing, whatever you want to call it. So if you don't have a professional online presence, if you're not using SEO, which is how Google indexes you, then you're seeding or giving that up to your competitors who will do that.
agreed.
I could give a million examples and talk about a million businesses I worked with,
Sure.
both positive and negative experiences where they learned, and the vast majority go out of business very quickly. I was a mentor for the United States Small Business Administration for quite a few years, and several other nonprofits as a mentor. And overwhelmingly, I mean, the majority of small businesses, they have the odds stacked against them. They try to be competitive, um, and it's difficult. The odds are stacked against them financially in every way you can think of. So to not be online in a professional way is just, it's foolish. You're giving it up and just saying, I don't want money.
Yeah. Um,
I mean, every barber shop should be online, taking online reservations, taking payments online, and booking appointments. Every hair salon, every shoe shine man, every limousine company, every business you can think of should be taking money 24 hours a day, 7 days a week through their company website. The vast majority of business owners today, especially small business owners, do not have professional websites. They don't take advantage of SEO, and they certainly don't use e-commerce.
yeah. I
That's
think
why I like to be interviewed, so I can try to help small business owners get some
I
leverage.
think some of them get a little overwhelmed. I think is probably
And that's easy.
yeah.
That's easy to do. It's understandable.
Yeah.
I get it. And that's where you say, I need an expert's help.
Yeah.
You know, you can't do everything by yourself for yourself. You can't be all things to all people. But that's what I've seen so many times. Everybody is working two or three jobs to make what they used to make from one. And if you're trying to start your own business on the side, how are you going to manage and run your own business and learn web design, SEO, e-commerce, paid advertising, hosting, what your domain name should be, what your branding
Mm-hmm.
should be, on and on and on. How are you going to do all of that? Write content, make videos. You can't do all of that by yourself, for yourself. And that's why you ask for an expert's help. You can do it slowly,
Yep.
where you, what we call scaling, or if you have money saved and you're ready to commit and you really believe in yourself and your business, then you say, okay, I'm vetting professionals on the basis of quality outcomes and how experienced and professional they are, and not based on how cheap they are. And then you work with the person who can help you.
Yeah. One of the things I love about digital marketing too is, especially if you're not in a service industry, but you're selling a product or something that can be shipped. When you do digital marketing, like it doesn't matter your zip code. Like there's
Right.
no
It shouldn't.
boundaries. There's no boundaries, right?
Right. It shouldn't matter, because honestly, you can automate everything if you know what you're doing, if you work with professionals. I mean, honestly, I had my own freelance business in between working for different marketing agencies. And to be very, very honest, it took me several years to really learn how to scale and brand myself, set everything up, so that it could be automated, that I could work with any type of client anywhere in the world and do so 24 hours a day. It was not immediate.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am, somebody who worked for different marketing agencies for 20, 25 years. And then I would freelance in between. And when I first started freelancing in between those jobs, I would get all kinds of clients, and the wrong type of client would just, spin my wheels, and I would be completely overwhelmed and not knowing what to do. And I had to learn how to apply the structure from the agency to working as a solopreneur, and then have people help me if and when I needed help. And the same applies for the small business owner and, the individual at home listening or watching.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different reasons that you would use digital marketing. Some of the other things I think of too that I like about it is I like being able to look at analytics and know what's working for me and what isn't. And so through
Right.
digital marketing, you can do that where you don't really necessarily get to do that through print media or other types of media. You don't really know how many people have saw your ad or saw your reel or whatever it is that you have out there. What was the engagement? How long did they look at it? You don't get that from other types of advertising. So
Well,
I
you know
do love
what
that.
what's really interesting about that point is, in a lot of cases when I used to talk to small business owners, or startups or nonprofits, they would ask me, well, how do I know that this will work? How do I know that, I'll make $1 million overnight, or I'll go from being invisible to Google to being at the top of Google? How do I know that I'll get what I want? And the funny thing is, I would always say, well, look, if you spend $500 to put an ad in your local Yellow Pages phone directory, they cannot and will not promise you results. If you spend $1,500, whatever it is, to join your local chamber of commerce, they're not going to guarantee you results, and they can't. And you have to go to a million meetings and grease a million palms and go to a million cheap restaurants and eat at all these horrible buffets and everything, so you can meet all these people at all these networking events and maybe get some leads, but you don't know if you will or how many. Digital marketing, in contrast, can show you this is how many people went to your website per hour at
Mhm.
what particular day. We can even show you through what's called heat mapping, what did the website visitor look at? How much time did they spend looking at a particular section? If they didn't make a purchase, why didn't they make a purchase? That's what we call cart abandonment with e-commerce. We can actually show you what did they look at,
Yep.
why did they abandon the shopping cart, how come they didn't make a purchase. No other form of marketing can do that. That's why so many people invest in Facebook advertising
Yeah.
and LinkedIn and everything, because they want to be seen. If you go on Shark Tank and you tell them, oh, I don't have a website, or here's my website, but it looks like a PowerPoint presentation,
Yeah.
you don't dare do that.
Yeah. So if you're in the service business, one of the things that I do like is although, most of my customers are going to be within a certain zip code because I'm in a service business. Yeah, in my daytime job. And but one of the things I do like about or do use my social media and digital content for is to stay connected with my customers and engage with them very frequently. So
Sure.
for an example, like today was like our first official day of preschool, and we took pictures of the kids with their holding their first day of preschool, the infant class with Miss Sally. And those get spread all over the place. Same thing with like student of the week. I think that's probably the most shared post that we do is every Friday we do a student of the week, and those things get blasted all over Facebook. So I would say, although I can't use digital to go outside of several zip codes because it's service based, um, I can use it for other avenues that definitely bring business to me and definitely get eyes on my business and brand repetition.
Well, here's the thing with you being a local business, there is local advertising. Like what you said, you don't want to go beyond your specific
Hmm.
zip code.
Can
But what you
streamline it.
could do is look at zip codes that could uh, patronize your business, that
Hmm.
would want to bring children to your business. So, what would that be? A 20-mile radius, a 30-mile radius? I'm not really sure. It depends on traffic and,
Sure.
you know, so there's local SEO where you would want to target the specific zip code or city or borough where you live.
Hmm.
And then there's also what we call hyperlocal SEO, where you would actually write content like blog posts or other content
Yep.
specifically for certain neighborhoods.
Sure.
And you would coordinate with local businesses in your zip code. One of the strengths to being a local business is that you can coordinate activities with local businesses and,
Hmm.
invite them over, have events and partner with similar businesses.
100%.
You know,
Yeah.
when I was a freelancer, I used to really make my bread and butter by having local workshops and advertising them to death locally through local chambers of commerce,
Hmm.
professional associations, organizations, local libraries would let me put up flyers in some cases, local coffee shops, and I would just promote the heck out of workshops that I was having. I'd post them on Meetup, Facebook, as many event calendars, local TV stations, local radio stations. And I would publicize my events like crazy for a month before the event actually happened so that we filled the room
Yeah.
to capacity.
I think that is interesting because I do find that some of the clients that I work with on the coaching side, they don't really have a strategy or a goal. It's like they just kind of make
Right.
these posts. They don't have like a launch, a pre-launch, a 3-4 week period to really build
Yeah.
something up.
It
And then they go,
it's
oh, well, that doesn't work. That didn't work for me. But
right.
because
The
yeah, it's
thing
more
is,
than posting, a one time. Oh, I'm having this event. Like there's strategy to it.
absolutely. When you do something like that and it doesn't achieve the results that you wanted, it's very easy to make the person feel depressed or anxious or why am I doing this? It's not having the desired, outcome that I had envisioned.
Hmm.
But also you're wasting your time and energy. It's like there's what's that old saying, there's working hard, but then there's also working smart.
Yeah.
You want to be deliberate with your time and not just be working crazy. I waste a lot of time on the internet, and I always have a rule that I group activities, first
Yes.
email, then I check social media. Then, if I'm going to post something to social media, it's
Hmm.
all automated. So I could spend, like 2, 3 hours a week just filling it up so that it's all distributed throughout this course of time. but there's only so much time in the day. Do
Yeah.
you really have time to do something that nobody's going to look at and no one really needs?
Yeah.
So whenever you write a blog post, you want to make sure that it has internal links where you're linking to other related pages and blog posts on your website
Yep.
or scholarly sources or local businesses. That's how I went to number one in Google when I lived in Denver, because I would talk about local businesses and local events. Then I would include a link to my meetup group or
Yeah.
the Chamber of Commerce page. So
And so
people
when
would
people
see
are going to those, they're linking to you. So yes,
exactly. And
absolutely.
then I
It's
would
connected.
partner with local co-working locations
Yeah.
and give workshops there. So everybody knew that if you were going to have anything to do with WordPress or SEO or digital marketing in Denver, I wanted to be, the beginning and the end. I wanted to be your sun source of all things.
Yeah.
And it's not out of arrogance. It's because A, I had bills to pay, and B, I really truly believed in my heart, and I still do, that I could legitimately help these struggling business owners if they were ready to commit. If they
Yeah.
were just putting their big toe in the water to see if it's warm, I'm not the person.
Sure.
I'm not your guy. If you're ready to commit and say,
Right.
I have a business, I believe in it, it's tested, I've been in business for a couple of years now, not a fly by night. I can invest a few $1,000s if it means making back 30,000 in
Hmm.
6 months. That's realistic. That's who you want to work with.
And I think some industries too, to be honest, especially if you sell a high ticket item, like so for my childcare industry, if I pick up just
Sure.
one customer, that person could be anywhere between 11,000 to 15,000 a year. I mean,
That's what they don't understand.
I get
That's what
it.
it, that's what a lot of small business owners don't understand, or if they're
Yeah.
new. I used to have a long goatee, and I loved going to the barber shop to get my goatee trimmed and manicured and, feel fussed over and everything. And you'd get to talk to the guys and hang out. I only found like two barber shops that had decent websites
Yep.
and let me schedule appointments online and pay online.
Yeah. My
I've got
husband's
a lot
barber
of
shop
things to
is like
do.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of things going on. I've got a
Hmm.
wife and other things to do. I can't just sit around on my hands and wait all day long.
Yep.
Or you go to the barber shop and wait for 2 hours to see if they can fit
If they
me
can fit
in.
you in. Yeah.
Right. So I wanted barbershops where I could book it online, pay online, know that they're professional, and then go.
Yeah.
A lot of male barbershops, you'd go there, there's people fighting and arguing in the back room. I had one barber shop where the guy was yelling at his little 5-year-old son. And I'm like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to hear this. This is
Okay.
crazy. I don't want to sit here and be a part of this. I feel horrible for the little kid. So it took me a couple months to finally find two barber shops in the
The right
entire
one.
area that had decent websites that could let me schedule online, take payment online. So I knew that I could go there, have what I wanted done,
And then get
relax in a
out.
professional environment,
Yep.
and go home and feel like an adult.
Yeah.
You know, they made so much money from me because I would go every 2, 3
Hmm.
weeks.
Yeah. So last week we our episode was on customer retention. And
Yeah.
so I feel like that's another piece of the pie when it comes to digital marketing. It isn't just finding the next customer. It's also keeping your customer, competing
Yes.
with your competition, putting your business in the best light possible. I think is 100% equally important when we talk about the digital space.
Absolutely. To contact your customers once a month,
Hmm.
send them a coupon. That's one of the great advantages to having a blog
Yep.
is you can have a monthly newsletter where you send them your best blog posts or a special coupon or a limited time
Hmm.
offer or a free course for our current customers, some kind of special download list or calculator, something that they could use. There's no limit to the number of free giveaways or things that you could do to make them want to come back. And how many businesses really do that? Most don't.
Yeah.
I
Like
mean,
I'd say
imagine you go to,
5%.
yeah,
5%.
imagine you go to a restaurant and you love the food, you think it's great. Do they have, a ticket that you can punch? And after 4 or 5 visits, you
Yep.
get a free meal.
Yep.
Most don't,
Don't.
and they won't do it.
Yep.
You know, um, What about recipes? If you're a restaurant, if you're a barber, you could send out, a monthly newsletter about, new ways to groom or
Or
whatever,
even new products that you have, right? New products that you're
Exactly.
selling that you can ship right to their house. They don't even have to come, right? So yeah, so there's a lots of ways that people can use it. So I think some of them, I think we've really kind of talked about why digital marketing is important, and 4.6 million people use the internet, and 60% global interaction if you can sell your products, across the world. I mean,
Yes.
that's where they are. That's where
Yeah.
the people are. So
Yeah.
I think everybody gets at this point how important it is. Maybe you could share your maybe a couple best tips on how does somebody get started. Let's say they're not
Mhm.
quite ready to hire a professional yet. They've started a couple platforms. What best advice could you give to at least get them to get the ball rolling?
Well, the first thing I would say is read my website for one. Go to my website, dms.blue. Those are my initials. It's what I do, and it's my favorite color. Um, Go to DMS Blue. It doesn't cost you a penny,
Hmm.
and you can read all my blog posts. If you have a question, you can use the email form. You can send me a question. Please don't send me spam or some get rich quick scheme. I'll just delete it. You can schedule a free video call with me for a half hour, and I'll actually talk to you and help you. Most people don't do that because it's a matter of commitment.
Hmm.
You know,
I
um,
do. I
it
know. I
really
do.
is.
I do business coaching on the side for for startup businesses and small businesses.
The
And
number one problem is getting started.
hmm.
I read somewhere that 97% of people who start novels never finish them
Yeah.
because I think it's easier to say, well, I tried, but it didn't work out,
Uh huh.
or it was just too hard, than it is to go through the process and say, love it or hate it,
Yeah.
love it or feel ambivalent about it. This is me.
I think that's where the real entrepreneurship kind of steps in, because you do enjoy the process as much as the results. And I know that sounds
Commitment changes
cliche,
everything.
but yeah, absolutely.
There was a period of time where when I was freelancing in between marketing agencies, there were a few months there where it was very slim pickings, and I didn't know, how we were going to make it. But I just said it's not an option.
Yeah.
Failure is not an option.
Yep.
Not being able to pay the rent or the mortgage,
Hmm.
that's not an option. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to achieve this goal.
Yeah.
I was 100% in it. So if that meant teaching a workshop every single night
Hmm.
and then working during the day with clients or working a full-time job at
Yep.
some marketing agency, then so be it.
Yep.
So once you're 100% committed, then things just start to open up.
I
And it's
love it.
very
Yes.
surprising that way how it really will happen. People
Hmm.
will come just where, how did this person show up? It's because you made a commitment
Kept
that you
at it.
wouldn't
Yeah.
give up. But my advice to the small business owners thinking of getting started with digital marketing would be, first of all, number one, read what you can find for free on my blog. You got nothing to lose and everything to gain from it.
Right.
The other thing that I would say is to look at your larger competitors. It's what we used to call piggybacking
Yep.
when I was in marketing, is look at your largest, most profitable competitor. If you're a small local business, then look locally. Who is your largest competitor? And look at their website. Look at what they're doing on social media. How are they presenting themselves? Do they look professional and sleek? Do they have a cool logo? Go to their office location or their restaurant or whatever and see what it looks like. How did they run their shop? How did the people behave when you go into the business? Is everybody using, wearing a uniform? Does the
Yes.
place look clean and well
Yep.
kept? Or is it disorganized?
Hmm.
How do they treat you? Sign up for their newsletter.
Yep.
You know, I did that when I was a freelancer. I would look for other freelancers in the digital marketing space, but because they would see me as a competitor, I would go outside of my city. So instead
Yeah.
of Denver, Colorado,
Yep.
I would look at an area that was like what, like a 4 hour drive
Yeah.
away in some other part of the state. So they're not going to see me as a competitor, right?
Yeah.
So I would call them up and just say, hey, look, is there some way that I could talk to you or,
Mm-hmm.
meet you, lunch on me. I'll take you out for lunch wherever you want to go. Just want to be able to ask you some questions. And 9 times out of 10, if you really ask them sincerely
Yeah, they'll say yeah.
and, and
They'll
you're
say
willing
yes.
to drive,
Mm-hmm.
they'll meet you. I
Mm-hmm.
met several people. I think it was like a 2 hour drive,
Yeah.
and I'd meet them for lunch and I'd pay for whatever they wanted for lunch. And you take notes, you
Yep.
ask them whatever it is you can think of, and they'll tell you. And you learn a tremendous amount. Go to these marketing agencies in my case. So in your case, it would be, a preschool. Look at the preschool that's eating your lunch and say, how can I present myself like them?
Yeah.
How can I be like them? I want to be above board. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be sleek and professional. Everybody wears the same uniform, so you know that they work at the preschool. The children are all very calm. There's no fighting or anything like that. When the parents come in, you can show them around.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I
You want to
do.
be the top
I
of your
do. We wear
game.
uniforms, and I do know what you mean.
Exactly. Right. So it's like for me, I had workshops where people would say, well, I couldn't find you. I didn't know where your workshop was. I didn't, was looking all around for you. And then I started telling you, well, I'm the tall, skinny, bald headed guy. And they're still looking around for me. And I talked to my wife about it once, and she's like, well, I don't know what they need. She said, well, I don't know. And I was thinking about it. And I said, I never know how to dress when I go to these events. I would always wear jeans and a dress shirt or whatever. And she said, well, why don't you just wear your favorite color all the time?
Blue.
And then you
Yep.
can be the tall, skinny guy who wears this color all the time. And I thought that's brilliant. So
Okay.
I just tell, look for the guy wearing blue. And then he would find, go, oh, okay, there he is.
So you talked a little bit about networking. How does somebody choose the right network, meaning platform for their type of business? Do you have any suggestions around that? Like, I know you're probably going to say use multiple, but is there any?
No,
No. Okay. So
no.
what do you think is the best? How does somebody decide what platforms are going to go on?
There's only one that you start with,
Okay.
and that is your professional company website. That's where you start.
Okay.
That is the alpha and the omega. Remember, I'm probably older than you, but if you
I don't
remember,
know.
what are you, 21, 22?
Yeah, right. At a few 20s.
If you remember, websites were originally called portals.
Hmm.
Why were they called portals? Because everything went through the company website. You
Okay.
could get your downloads, you could get your different forms, you could look at your time clock. They have website technology now where you can clock in and clock out, you can get paid, you can pay your employees, you can check everything that you can possibly think of through the company website, book reservations, book every kind of appointment for every kind of service imaginable. I remember reading about a shoe shine man who was booking appointments and taking payments and
Hmm.
sending people coupons through his website. So the website should be the portal through
I
which every imaginable service goes through.
I think you're on.
Then,
Yeah, I think you're definitely onto something. So many
of
of the
course,
yeah, definitely many of the people that I work with are so stuck on the Instagram
no,
and I'm like, but that doesn't
cut it
likes
out.
likes don't
Cut
make
that
you
mess
likes
out.
don't make you money. So
No, that's
right. So
ridiculous.
I have been around a long time. I have been in this field for 23 years. Social media has only been around for like 14 or 15 of that. I built a whole business, multiple businesses
Here's the thing.
without social media, but I did have a website. I
Here's
did
the
have a
thing.
website.
Social media never was meant to be to take the place of working directly with people.
Yeah.
Social media always was, and certainly is today, a means for you to distribute your content marketing, your branded content marketing
Hmm.
to your ideal consumers.
Yeah.
For anybody listening who is a business owner, please let that sink in for a minute. Social media was always meant for you to distribute marketing collateral, branded marketing collateral to your ideal consumers. That's the whole purpose of what's called PPC, which is pay-per-click advertising or paid advertising. SEO is how you index your website in Google. If you don't use those things, you really are going to have a hard time being competitive in a very glutted market.
Yeah.
So it's really vitally important to be seen. If you're not being seen online, what's the point?
Yeah.
When we look at Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn, all these other things, these are all outlets for you to distribute content. If you don't have good content, then you don't have anything to
Right.
distribute.
And I think the word social is also there, right?
It's
So,
a misnomer. It's a misnomer, really. If I'm on Reddit or I'm on LinkedIn or I'm on Facebook, am I going to comment on everybody else's opinions about politics, or they just went and had a nice lunch at a restaurant or something? I don't have time for that. You don't want to comment on everybody, their opinions or their lives or whatever. You want to distribute branded marketing content to your ideal consumer as a business. If you want to have a separate account as an individual, then you have to make sure that that's also tied into your professional appearance and your business as well, so you can tie it back into that. You're not going to see Kevin O'Leary, commenting about politics on LinkedIn or Facebook. It's highly unlikely. I don't think he does. He's going to talk about watch Shark Tank, read my latest book, buy my book, buy my course, buy this, buy that, invest in this business that I just started. That's what they're going to tell you about because they're focused on their business.
what types of things should people be looking at when they're setting goals, when they're putting together a social media campaign?
Absolutely. Goals need to be specific. They need to be time bound. In other words, by a specific date, I want to see some traction in this particular area. If you have a fitness club or something, then you might say something that through my website and the use of SEO and social media and PPC and SEO, through these uses, I want to increase the enrollment by 15% within the next 6 months or so. That could be very realistic.
Yep.
Whereas if you say, oh, I want to make $1 million, in my first year of business or something, that's not going to happen unless you're already making
Yeah.
triple digits, in which case it's just a matter of amping up what
Amping
you
up.
already
Yeah.
have,
Yep.
right? So you want your goals to be specific and realistic
And measurable.
and time bound and measurable. Yeah, absolutely. And if they're not, then it's unlikely you're going to get back what you cannot identify. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
don't know what you want, how are you going to get it? It's like that old thing, when we're teenagers, you're dating and you're thinking, well, this isn't working out the way I wanted. Well, who was your ideal person? They'd have to look like a male model or a female model and, go to an Ivy League institution and have the best job and all on. When, what about just looking for love?
Yeah. So some of the things that I think when I'm thinking about like what I'm hoping, maybe these might be more objectives and goals, but like one, customer service. I definitely think that that is one way that you can use social media,
Oh,
engaging
sure.
engaging with customers, generating new leads, expanding your audience, especially like you said, blogs or any type of content where you're sharing your expertise or knowledge in something. Certainly driving sales, increasing website traffic, or gaining insight and feedback on what your customers really love about your products. Because that is one way that I use my social media as well, is to kind of see what people are commenting, what new program we've offered, and say, all right, well, it seemed like people really liked this particular activity, we should do it again. So those are some things. I don't know if you have any other ones that you think that people use that I might have missed.
Well, anything that you can think of to increase engagement and interactions with your customers or clients on a regular, repeated basis. And by that, I don't mean something that's intrusive or artificial or feels phony for you. It could be a coffee shop that you go to. I remember in Denver, people love coffee shops. And I would go to the coffee shops with my laptop and they would have you fill in a book. There was like a book where you'd write down your email address or something.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, I never got any email of any kind from anybody, but there were a few that
Thank
would
you.
send me fun emails
Yeah.
about poetry readings or a concert at the coffee shop, and it would make you want to go back.
Yeah.
And then they would say, well, if you come to this coffee shop at this event next week where we're having a concert with this cover band out on our patio deck, and your first cup of coffee is free on the house or free sandwich or something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that might be fun. I could bring my laptop and we could go and hang out at the coffee shop and get a sandwich and listen to this cover band out on their patio. That's smart marketing. And then keeping in touch with you,
Yeah.
or the barber who sends you a coupon, or who sends, hey, David, I really enjoyed trimming your beard. You seem like a nice guy. Tell you what, I'll give you 20% off your next trim when you come in next time. How's that? Here's a coupon. I bought a plugin recently for my a website that I was working on, and the developer who made the plugin sent me a coupon. He said, hey, thanks for purchasing this. Here's a coupon. If you'd like to get another one, I'll give you this, 25% discount. I said, absolutely. I'm going to jump on that right away.
Yeah. I think another thing too, the more comfortable you get, the more longer that you've been in business, the more comfortable you are
Yeah.
with your service. Like even beyond an email. So I had brought this up last week. Who's sending you a video? Could you imagine opening up your email and getting
Yeah.
a little video link from the
I
owner
do
of
that.
like, yeah, exactly. So like,
Yeah. I do that with some clients, some of my digital marketing clients. What I'll do is email them or text them a link to a video that I make. And it's just like what I'm doing now, where I'm talking to you in my office
uh-huh.
with the microphone. And I just say, hi, listen, today is such and such the date at such and such time. I hope you're doing well. My wife and I really appreciate you. We really appreciate your business. If you have any questions about how you could expand your business or accelerate growth and
Mm-hmm.
profitability more quickly, I'm a phone call or an email away.
Yeah. And
And or check out this new blog post. There are tools out there right now that you can use to, make a video in 5 minutes.
yeah, even like just that personalization. So
Yeah.
like, imagine I have a new student starting tomorrow, and I send out a video and say, "Hey, Chloe, this is Miss Erica. I can't wait for you to start your first day. I'm so looking forward to seeing you. I'm gonna be at the door when you get dropped off tomorrow morning." Like just even something so personalized like that, like nobody's
Yeah.
forgetting that, right? And your
Yeah.
competitor's not doing that, and so that's how you can use these tools to not only have to worry about getting the new client, but really retaining too. So there's just so many ways to use these tools to really make sure that your business stays thriving.
Yeah. Imagine going to like a furniture warehouse and buying some kind of furniture, and a week or two later, you get a video from somebody there at the store saying, we appreciate your purchase.
Hmm.
If you have any problems with this new faucet
Yeah.
or this new refrigerator, please email or text
Hmm.
me or call me or whatever, and I'll get back to you right away.
So
Why not do that if it could
yeah,
increase sales?
100%. So what about using using stuff that you have already created? So repurposing content. Yeah,
Absolutely.
right? Time saver.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a huge, huge thing. I have a blog post on my website about content repurposing where I have a little infographic image
Yeah.
where I show people the concept in this visual image of how it works. So, just like you and I talking right now, I could have a video of our conversation. which I could distribute to YouTube, Vimeo,
Hmm.
BitChute. There's a million other video sharing websites that I could post
Yeah.
this video to. Now, if I do that and I have slightly different word term combinations, slightly different SEO, guess what? More people are likely to see that over time than if I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Then if I take that same conversation, the podcast, now I have the audio. Well, if that's distributed through Anchor, iTunes,
Hmm.
Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, there's Audible. You could get a Roku channel. How many people who have podcasts have a Roku channel?
Yeah.
Nobody, because it doesn't occur to them.
Yeah.
They're not they're not looking at it like a Rubik's cube,
Right.
saying, I really need to grow my business. I want to reach everybody in the world. Well, with the internet, you could conceivably
Do that.
reach a lot more people.
Yeah, we have some listeners in Germany. When I looked at the stats, I was like, "How cool is that? Like,
Yeah,
so cool, right? Super cool."
absolutely. Where
Um,
there's a will, there's a
and
way.
I think too, like just like what we're doing now, also sharing this with my listeners, you sharing with your listeners, like then you expand your audience. So anybody who is working with other businesses where you're collaborating together and you're sharing your social media um, types of things, either it's your products, your services, etc. Get a testimonial or get somebody to shoot a video with you. There's a girl that I use, Courtney, who does my makeup, which I didn't do today, but who do my makeup for certain YouTube channels or events, and I always have her beforehand on a reel saying like, get my makeup with Courtney, and then we share it on her platform as well.
Right.
So
And
there's
you
just
don't
so
try
many
to do
ways. Yeah.
Right. And you don't try to do everything yourself. You get
Yeah.
help,
Yep.
you know. But yeah, the thing is also, I would say, if you have a podcast, that means you have video content to distribute,
Hmm.
audio content to distribute. You could also write a blog post about the interview or the
Yep.
podcast episode while it's still fresh in your mind.
Yeah.
And what I would tell everybody is if you have a podcast, don't leave it, do it right away while it's still fresh in your mind. Write a brief summary blog post
Hmm.
summarizing the discussion of the podcast. Include links to the person you're interviewing, anything that was mentioned.
Yep.
Include links to the audio version of the podcast. Do it while it's still fresh in your mind, because I have a million podcast episodes of my own where I had my own podcast,
Sure.
and it's murder trying to go back and say, oh man, I remember talking to this lady like 5 years ago. I don't remember, what our conversation
Yeah.
felt
Well,
like 5 years
and you
ago.
learn a lot as you go. So I think you're episode 19. I think you're 19. Um, the
Yeah,
first four or five, like I was like winging it. I'll be 100%. I was just
we
winging
all
it.
do.
I didn't have a format. I didn't. It was just like interview style, like just chatting, right? But now, it was certainly much more like what's the beginning, the middle, the end, and just thinking about how to flow. But going back to, I will now listen. I used to try to write the description beforehand. I don't do that anymore. So now I'll go back
Yeah.
and listen to the podcast and write, because I know in my mind what I wanted to cover, but did we really get to all of that? Or did we
Yeah.
go off in another way?
Yeah. That's why I was saying you want to write a summary
Yeah.
blog post about the interview as soon as you're done with it so that
Yeah.
it's fresh in your mind. So you've got a blog post. You can always go in and edit it. And you want to add internal links to other blog posts
Hmm.
on your website, other related episodes,
Yeah.
maybe special offers you have that might be related to the topic, and then include links to the video and then the audio and other episodes and on and on.
Yeah.
I didn't do it at first because I felt, oh man, I don't know who's going to listen. I don't know how good this is if I compare it to Joe Rogan and
Yeah.
all these other people. I'm not him and he's not me. We're
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
same guy. My
Definitely.
temperament is completely different,
Yeah.
and I'm not a celebrity,
Yeah.
you know. So you can't compare yourself to, it's a false equivalency, as they say,
Sure.
So, but that's content distribution.
Yeah.
Our content repackaging, repurposing, content repurposing. And you could also take like an infographic image you could create
Hmm.
of topics discussed. And now you've got content that you could share on websites like Pinterest
Yeah.
or even on Facebook. Hey guys, here's an infographic I made illustrating the concepts that David discussed in this episode about digital marketing.
Yeah.
What do you think about it? Now you could share this single image on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. And hey, if you want to listen to the audio, go to this link. If you want to watch the video, click this link. If you want to read the blog post, go here. But it's always better to start with the blog post because that's where everything is. You want to always think about like, well, where am I directing these people to?
Yeah.
It's like it's easier to just say I'm going to direct them back to my website. Do I really want to send you to somebody else's website like Twitter or LinkedIn?
Hmm.
Not really. I want to send you to my website.
Yeah. So, what are your top favorite 5 marketing books?
My top 5 marketing books. Oh, wow, that's difficult because I've been reading a lot of fiction. I have to look at my shelf here. Um, I'd have to say I still really, really like, I got to take my hat off to them. Book Yourself Solid is still a really good marketing book.
Okay.
Um, Seth Godin is okay, but I mean, he talks about ideas. Basically, one book is one idea.
Okay.
So he's not everybody's cup of tea. So if you read a Seth Godin book, you have to understand he's talking about one idea in that book.
Okay.
And it may or may not, knock you off your out of your socks.
Yeah.
I would say Book Yourself Solid. Um, Trying to think of one better than that. And I really can't. Not off the top of my head.
I really love
I would say The Four Agreements.
the 4 Agreements. Okay.
It's not a marketing book per se,
Yeah.
but it's a really good, direct, simple book about getting real with yourself.
Okay. I really love Gary V's Jab, 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 Hook book. I don't know
Yeah,
if you've
I've
ever.
definitely heard of him and I've seen a lot of his videos. I'm not sure if I agree with everything he
Yeah.
said.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I think.
I think you can hustle yourself into an early grave.
Yeah.
I think, if you don't know what you're doing and why you're doing it and who
Sure.
you're doing it for,
Yep.
then, you're just spinning your wheels. But I do agree with being focused and organized and very deliberate,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
think my takeaway from that book, which I try to help everyone else understand when you're thinking of your social media, is using it to tell a story, and
Yeah,
not every piece of content should be buy my product, right?
yeah,
And I feel like a lot of it is, check out my new course, check out my new book, check out my new, right? So I do think that there's something to be said to, having a good deal of content that is not purchase related, and then you put in, but if all this sounds good to you, here's where you can find out more, like you said. But
exactly. It's, a gentle lead.
yeah.
Because if you look at a doctor, a dentist, a lawyer, an accountant, or realtor, there is what we call in marketing, we call it a trust seal or some kind of a trust communication where you want to look at their online presence and feel that they're trustworthy, that they're
Hmm.
professional, that they're really serious about this and they can help you. You don't want to look at it and feel that I don't know if they really care. I don't know if they're really professional.
Yeah.
That's not what you want them to think.
Hmm.
So it's like I remember talking to a realtor and she was saying, well, how cheap can I get a website for a realtor? And I said, well, that's not the way you want to approach it.
Yeah.
If I'm going to look to you to sell my house, I want to feel like you're the best there is in this area
Right.
and you're very professional. You really care about doing a great job. You really want to allay my concerns about selling the house and not trying to gouge me and everything. So I said, I would look at who's on HGTV because they're going to be professional. You want to look at their individual websites and then see how can you come across like them.
Right.
If they're on HGTV
Right. They've got
and you
clout.
can, right, then your website should look like them.
Yeah.
So there was a realtor I was talking to, and I said, well, if I were going to redo your website, I would look at Egypt Sherrod. She is, one of the most professional, slick, uh, realtors probably in the US based in Atlanta. So my website would look like, something like her company would produce. Obviously, you can't make it like hers, but you would do something in a similar vein, very professional, very above board, show that this is, something you're very serious about, your license number, how many years in business you have, what you've written, everything.
Yeah. So one of the last questions that I have for you is, we talked a lot about actively engaging your audience in relevant ways. What are some suggestions? I'd like somebody to be able to listen to this podcast and say, okay, here's three ways I can engage with my, besides making a comment on someone's comment, what are three ways that maybe a business owner can really engage their audience?
Ongoing conversations, not commenting on someone else's post on social media.
Okay.
That's not what a business owner's time should be spent on, for one thing. You should have someone doing it for you if you're going to do that. But commenting on somebody else's comment, I, that's like leaving cookie crumbs in the street and
Sure.
thinking you're going to attract Hansel and Gretel or something. It's just like, it doesn't do it.
So
What
participating in the conversation to show your expertise.
Right. What I would do is, for if you have current customers or current clients, I would get in touch with them and just ask them, hey, you were a customer of mine in the past. We had such and such an interaction. Boy, that went really great. How are things going now? Are you in the market for a new car?
Hmm.
Are you interested in maintenance in your current car? I could give you a 25% coupon or
Hmm.
something. Boy, we really enjoyed having you to our restaurant. Did you know that we have a new deal going on where, if you order this, you get this free dessert? Or, you'll get a free video of a recipe or something. So it's direct interaction with them, either by email, by text message. If you know the person directly, you can even call them up if they're a current client of yours. Like,
Hmm.
if I and you know them, like I had current uh, digital marketing clients. I remember calling one client out of the blue and just say, I remember telling my wife she was looking at a new dress. And I said, honey, don't buy that new dress. We'll get one of my clients to pay for it for you. She's like, come on, you're crazy. I said, yeah, watch this. I called one of my existing clients and I said, I haven't heard from you in a few months. Your website's great. I want you to know I'm checking it, on a weekly basis for viruses and running daily backups, and everything looks great. But I noticed a problem with the contact form. I think you're probably getting some spam, aren't you? Would you like me to get rid of some of that spam for you? I could do that. And she said, oh my God, that would be great. She's like, I would gladly pay you $500 if you could get rid of all this spam that I'm getting every day. I said, consider it done. The invoice is en route.
Hmm. And your wife got the
I'm not
price.
kidding.
No, I
And
believe
I
you.
was so, yeah, when the money came in my PayPal account, I showed my wife, I said, go get that dress.
Yeah.
Go get it. I don't need it. Go get it. Get that dress. And it also made me feel good because I knew that I delivered something to this client
Yeah.
who had
That
been
was
with me for
beneficial.
10
Yeah.
plus years. And she didn't know that I knew that she had a spam problem,
Yeah.
but I knew it because I was in charge of the website. I see all the emails she's getting. So I could look at the algorithms and tell.
Well, I think it's nice too that you stayed on top of that, like for her. Like how many
Yeah.
web
ha-
designers are checking somebody who's not somebody who's paying for a specific thing right now? Not many
uh,
people are doing that.
but that's how you make more
Well,
money.
I
Imagine
get
you
it.
go to get an oil change and 2 months later, 3 months later, you get an email or a text message or even a video email to you. Imagine that. hey, we really enjoyed you coming in and getting an oil change. We noticed it might be time for a new oil change. If you come in today, we're happy to give you a coupon for this amount,
Mhm.
um, and a free cup of coffee or something, or a gift card to Starbucks for $5, whatever, you know, they're going to take you up on that offer because nobody else is doing anything like that. And that's how you increase conversions, subscribe them to your monthly newsletter. I mean, there's so many ways
There's
that
so
you
many
could do
ways.
this if you really want to.
Yeah.
I would have gone completely crazy if my barber sent me a video, and say, "Hey, Dave, I really enjoyed, taking care of you. Come back in 2 weeks, and the coffee's
Yeah.
on me."
Yeah.
You
So
know,
yeah, you certainly shared a great deal of ideas. Hopefully, folks are able to extract some of that and at least get the ball moving. So if they feel they're in a space where they're ready to reach out and get somebody more professional, let's give them your contact info, and then also where can people purchase your book?
absolutely. Well, my book is on Amazon, Books a Million, Walmart, every place fine books are sold.
Okay.
Um, you can buy an illustrated version of my book that's just full of infographics and charts and pie charts through my own website. That's www.dms.blue. And you could just type in dms.blue. You can send me an email. You can schedule a video consultation with me, and I'll be happy to break things down for you.
Sounds great. Is there anything left that you think that they should know? You think we covered it? You think, what do you think?
I think you did a great job.
Thanks. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to Practical Biz Podcast. This is Erica Sakosha. We are tuning out. Thank you. Talk to you soon. Bye.